back to tiles, and Jason will start this game. Will we see Uwu? Do you think in the first rack?
We'll see if Mr. Ubeika. I'm gonna have a hard time saying it. I'm so used to calling him Mr. Wubika. We'll see if Mr. Uwubika can pull the woo out of the bag. I am very familiar with Jason in particular. Amongst those many tournaments he's played, some of them have been the Canadian National Scrabble Championship, back when both of us were still playing the NWL Lexicon. We faced off there a number of times in other Canadian tournaments, so I can speak a lot to Jason's tendencies and how he likes to play in general. Erickson, I'm not as familiar with across the board, but of course I've seen him online. I'm looking forward to seeing this matchup to see how these players fare. In particular, Jason, if I had to highlight with a personal anecdote, I recall playing him in Calgary many years ago, and there was a point in the game, I say it's about mid-game, where he just immediately slaps down Laburnum on the board, just doesn't even think about it and puts it down. So he's got pretty deep word knowledge in a number of areas. He has for a long time, and he hasn't always had a rating that's in the 1800s plus, and that speaks to his experience over time, and he's put in some effort to get even better. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing the matchup between these two players.
Yeah, and we see Jason starting the game with Zines. He could also have played Signs, but that would have been a lot more open, both because of the vowel being exposed to the double letter score, as well as the front hooks of Zine, uh, A Zine, E Zine. So Zane's very sensible choice to start the game. And now we see Erickson, quite a few. Uh, well, he has many vowels. He's thinking of playing I. Um, Probably that's gonna be below the set, scoring him 21 points. What do you think about this playing I below Z?
I think that's perfectly fine. For me, what is perfectly not fine is the orientation of his tiles. It's driving me insane. But I bet that's probably him toying with us a little bit, because Erickson Erickson loves a little bit of chaos. I will say that, in a nice little neutral way. He likes a little bit of playful chaos, and I believe that's even reflected in the way his tiles are organized on his rack.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good leave, I guess, but it's all over the place at the same time.
Quite literally.
And Jason's pulled the blank, so he has a few options, but he's going to be spending quite a bit of this time on this move, I think. And the thing is that he does not have a bingo through the E, either the E of I or E of Zanes. So he's going to have to play something through the I or the N, um, which, I think if I were in this position, I would probably spend a lot of time trying to think about the E because it just looks like you have to play it through the E. Um, yeah, do you agree?
I would be taking my time on this rack to see if there is anything through the E with the tiles that I have, just because if there is, especially if it's double-double, it scores so much more than anything else if it exists. And then, as much as it might seem like there isn't anything with the S and Zanes, I'd still be taking time to make sure I'm not missing anything with the blank, going to a triple word score, assuming there isn't something to the E. So if I had to lock through the process, I'd be looking through the E for a bit first, and then to the S and Zanes, and then for anything else like Vitamers, which looks like will be the play that Jason opts for.
Yeah, I am running the plays on simulation, and it appears that playing something like Everts actually simming pretty well on this turn. Um, Maybe because that spot that Ericsson has just opened up is just so volatile, just A little bit quite dangerous. ZE takes EAL, quite a lot of potential for high scores in the area. So everts helps to control that a little bit, and I think keeping blank and M still keeps your bingo chances quite alive. So interesting. I mean, I would say bingo is probably not really an error per se, but it's actually could be quite justified to pass up the bingo in that turn.
And for the content, I will go back to calling him Mr. Woobika because he has pulled the dreaded woo after making a bingo here. So living up to his nickname, Mr. Woobika will have to navigate the woo mess next turn. Erickson on his side, his letters actually look really nice, but it's one of those racks where I'd be staring for a long time and trying to find a 7 or an 8, but I'm pretty sure there's nothing that actually plays in this board, but I don't think there's many options at all for 8s even.
No, there are a few creative things he can do, like he can actually extend ZE, play something like Emblaze or Emblazer, just keeping the Y. He also has, if he wants to play, because the previous turn he actually set up, uh, yeah, and he spotted MELBA, Melba, for 41 points. That's probably one of the highest scoring plays besides Emblazer. And he can also just do two tau fish, right? Something like MY. Um, I probably would not do MY, but that's just me. I think MY is still perhaps a little bit, uh, I don't know, because I think a lot of tiles go in front of YE, so might be a bit worried about that. But at the same time, the leave of ABELR is also very strong, and there's an open S, right? So maybe even the fish MY. Yeah, I'm not sure. So many different options that are all pretty close.
I think Melba's pretty appealing for the pure scoring value. Emblaze is, of course, quite nice as well to open up the top part of the board even more. The S in Zane's, of course, already lends to opportunities where you could open up that way, but it's really only going to happen if you have a bingo going that way. And Blaze, in the more immediate sense, keeps the top of the board usable and playable. So there's lots of good choices. I think for me personally, I don't think I would play it, but I do understand the appeal to it. I think Melba, I'd probably be strongly considering with Emblaze. I'm not sure which I'd pull the trigger on, but they're both really, really good, Melba and Emblaze.
Yeah, based on the simulation I'm running right now, I mean MY is doing pretty well. Yeah, partially because it also sets up your own B,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, I mean I can see strong reasons for the other options as well. So what will Jason do with Wu? What will he do? He has no U to go with it, so he can't play Wu. What will you do in this position? Just
I think if there's anyone who knows how to handle the woo, it is Mr. Woobika. So he will teach us all what we should be doing in this case. Uh, I I am looking just for giggles, Wurzel exists as an option to play the woo, but I wouldn't play it. That is one way to deal with it. There are plays like Bow and and We, despite it setting up things that would remove the UW combination together while scoring. I'm just looking as I think out loud to see if anything is better. But I think you definitely have to uncouple the woo, if not get rid of both on this turn. Uh, I'm going to look a little bit longer here. I mean, like even Ow and Wem accomplishes uncoupling the woo and somewhat scores, and the leave is decent after
yeah,
that too.
yeah. I think Bao is probably as close he can get to balancing his rack. Just gets rid of one of the two of the WU combination. And yeah, I mean, still an open S, still a chance that he draws well and gets something in that line. Uh, so I think Bao is fine.
I like it. I'm perfectly happy with Bow for him here. It's a good play.
Yeah, and on to Erickson, and Erickson actually has a really nice 40-point play, but it's really requires quite creative play spotting. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I would not see it myself. He has another like easier 37-point play, um, which is parry, hooking the R to bow, so BOWR and parry. But he has a 40-point play which has been spotted on chat. Uh, Play where through the WE that was just open for him. He is also considering a pay, uh, keeping three consonants. Yeah, and some discussion about playware versus parry, which uh, playware would be quite a bit more open. Uh, he's thinking about a pay, he's put it down. Okay, he's played the pay.
I don't like Ape so much just because of the ratio in the pool and just the combination he's got left is not great, one, but two, when you think about what's available to play on the board for eights, there's essentially the two S's and the R as realistic options. So you need a lot to happen to be able to play any sort of bingo at this point. So I think I am more on the side of something like parry or playware. I think if you're behind like Erickson is, playware is just the appealing option for the reason you mentioned that it allows for more opportunity to develop the board and open up. And I think parry would be more considerable if you are already ahead. So I think I'd lean to playware, but what do you feel, Weibin?
Yeah, I mean, okay, I mean this is where I think I the simulation tells me that Harry is doing better right now. I instinctively I think I would just playware if I saw it. I mean, yeah, I would just want to open up a little bit more. But yeah, I think there are lines still available after Perry, and yeah, it's hard. I think personally, I would still go for playware, but simulation's telling me otherwise. That's why I'm not Nigel. And yeah, so a pay and you see Andy coming down, which still maintains a good lead. So Ericsson needs to think about. He's probably thinking that the S line is going to get blocked pretty soon. I think the number of spots on this board are quickly um, reducing. So he wants to, yeah, but there isn't really that much he can do. You think? Don't you think, Jesse?
There's nothing really that obviously develops the board at this point in time, and we've already discussed some of that being a consequence following a pay. So it looks like he's considering Bo underneath to create emo and yeah as a result. I can understand in the short term that gets him some points, but as you mentioned, it just doesn't do much to develop the board, which he really needs to happen just because Jason he has the benefit of being able to, as long as he scores, shape the board in a certain way here. And the thing with Vitamers and just the nature of the board there is it forks the board for left and right. The left is currently unusable as far as bingos are concerned, and is really just that S. So if you're Jason in almost every world as a human player, you are obstructing that S next turn. So Erickson really has to think about what he can do to open the board. There's nothing on top of M that really helps him that much. I mean, you can play OH and Hem, but playing 8s to an O, they technically exist, but certainly not with his rack. Um, so I'd be looking for anything that could, open the board further to the right. I'm not sure if there's anything that can score that accomplishes that on this turn. There's Yeah, there's not a whole lot. You can play something like the chat's mentioned Holp, as a play that just scores somewhat and balances the rack somewhat well. But if Jason plays on that S and Zanes, there's really not much happening. So I feel for him. There's not really an obvious answer that helps with the board shape. There's just choices that somewhat score. Bow one of them, Holp one of them. But as we're going to see, Jason should be able to obscure the last major spot very quickly here.
Yeah, I think against the human player, you really want to open up a little bit more, but the options are really, really limited. So bowl is, yeah, sounds looks pretty much like, yeah, the only thing you can do. I think one of the only things you can do in that position. But yeah, it's just so unsatisfying. Um, you could sacrifice a lot of points and play something like Hob, maybe, but that also closes your S and also easily blocked. Um, so very difficult spot. And after Cades, continues to be quite challenging for Erickson. What's he gonna do now? Noxel, maybe. Uh, Yeah, just plays off some of his duplicate letters and plays off the X. Yeah, I think he's probably. I mean, he probably has to like hope for some kind of bingo from the R or the S of Vietnamese. This board is really getting very congested. But that's it. He's only 60 something points behind. Still quite a lot of game to go. If he continues to balance his tiles, and eventually I think he will get something. Um, it's Yeah, it's not over yet.
Yeah, I think with that R and the S and Vitamers, they're unlikely to get obstructed or used for any obvious reason. So, as you're mentioning, it is to Erickson's benefit now to continue to score reasonably. Noxel being one of the options that you mentioned that does that and somewhat balances. Uh, I just don't see Jason playing off the R or the S and Vitamers for the sake of it. There's not really many worlds in which that's the right thing to do at this point in the game. So Erickson doesn't have to worry about those disappearing just yet. Um, I can see axons being considered, and I think some of the thought behind that in the short term would be just to open up the right side of the board. It, of course, has lots of hooks. It is very, very volatile to play that, but that's likely why he's considering it briefly.
Yeah, I mean, this kind of positions require some creativity, I guess. I mean, he's probably thinking like, is there a way I can set up the X? Uh, because something like Noxel, I mean, it's the balancing play, but is it really gonna win you the game? Yeah, it's gonna be quite hard, I think. And yeah, it doesn't give you a bingo line as well. So yeah, just unsatisfying. His last two turns, in fact. Well, I guess maybe linking back to one of his earlier plays as well, right? I mean, if he had played something like play where he would have kept more lines open. Um, yeah, so I don't know, against a human player, maybe something like something more open and keeping those lines available would have helped a little bit more. But it's a hard spot.
And we have some insight from part of the afternoon commentary team today and yesterday. Rob Rabinski mentioning in the chat, time is a consideration for Mr. Smith in this position on this particular board, as mentioned, just because it involves complexities involving potential setups and trying to avoid getting entirely locked in. It can take a lot of brain power to find ways to keep yourself in a game where it is realistically very against you at this point in time. So finding a reasonable play that still keeps the board usable to some degree, and at the same time giving yourself enough time to crunch even more complicated positions that are likely to come up. That's a very human factor here to be considered. And I think for Erickson, it's okay to spend a little bit of time more on finding ways to develop the board here, but if you find the perfect play in a position like this, assuming it exists, but you don't have any time to find any more, that doesn't really help you for the next couple of turns coming up here. So I think if he has found really only one reasonable option, it's time to do it for the sake of managing time. And he's doing that to give himself an X setup, I would say, is the most likely. It's interesting creativity here.
Very creative play. Yeah, I mean, not very much I can criticize about this play. I think, I mean, it's very, very something that I would probably not do myself, but very intentional, and I like that kind of idea. Um, yeah, I don't think it really works, but it's better than okay. So Jason playing Pave, which yeah, he's not deciding not to put an R or not to play Parev. So quite intentionally keeping the board a little bit more restricted, or at least not opening up the triple lane. But at the same time, Pave takes quite a few back hooks. And Erickson is well about 80 down, still not over yet. Yeah, I think on the point that you mentioned just now about like time management, I think it's uh, I've been in quite a few situations myself where I've been behind by like a bingo score, and I've spent so much time trying to get back into the game, and quite often I do, and then I lose because I don't have enough time in the end game. So I think yeah, that's the kind of situation you want to avoid in this case. It's quite sad if you manage to catch up and lose because you can't play an end game correctly.
It can be quite painful sometimes where you've worked so hard to get back in, but then, yeah, just not quite enough time in a end game or a pre-end game. Definitely hurts. So 8.5 minutes, more or less, for Erickson here with a fair deficit. So he'll be looking to play as relatively quickly as possible here, just because there's not really an obvious major X scoring spot here. The longer he waits with the X on his rack, the more it becomes less helpful to score really highly with it, unless you're leaving a blatantly obvious, I don't know, 90 plus play with whatever you do here by not playing it. I think in the interest of time management and keeping up to be a bingo and some down, you just got to make a play that scores decently well here, ideally involving the X, I think, just to keep things balanced. But there's nothing super obvious other than what he has lined up here. He is looking to play, I believe, DOP and Docs just to balance and give himself bingo opportunities. I'm not sure what else there really is that's helpful to him at this point.
Yeah, I think Docs is simming pretty well, but one interesting option I would point out, which is not simming as well, but I think it's interesting, is playing something like Sorex, not hooking on half-X as been suggested on chat, but uh, Sorex through the E of pave, and that is interesting to me because it actually, you have a chance. I mean, you keep ODE, and you have a chance of actually having a five parallel playing parallel to Sorex the next move, which will get quite a bit of points. But I think the chances are also that that gets blocked pretty often. So, you know, just to point out that that's a pretty interesting choice. And he decides to play Oxo, um, pretty decent, one of the decent options as well. Either Oxo or Docs, I think that turn would have done well, do well on the sim. I think we're at the moment actually. Docs is slightly performing slightly better. And yeah, Jason has a lot of time on his move right now, but his rack is very vowely. Um, would you exchange in this situation? Would you go ahead and bite the bullet and play something like IURE or even Auri? What would you do?
This one's pretty tough. An exchange obviously is appealing, at the surface level here. Certainly a point of consideration. Uh, it's really difficult to figure out what to play that's actually worth it as far as restricting the board. That also uses up enough of the tiles that balances pretty well. I think, you know, I would consider exchanging more than usual just because you're up by 70 here. If you exchange and your opponent bingos, the more likely place is going to be to the side of pave more often than not, and it'll be just to the side of the triple word scores, um, and give me a chance to fire back with something scoring high, if not a bingo after my exchange. And given the pool is heavy on consonants and lower on vowels, if he keeps something like I'm just looking at what's available there, ER or IER, and you draw probably IER is a point of consideration, just given the ratio in the pool. He can neutralize any sort of bingo if it were to come down. So I think I would consider exchanging more than usual in this case, just because it's not devastating necessarily if my opponent bingos here, just because of what I have for opportunity after an exchange. So I think I'd probably ultimately exchange, but I can see why you just grin and bear it with Uri, which is what he's doing.
Yeah, it's also mentioned on the chat that Uri, I mean, can you can play right beside paver. I mean, hooking onto paver, so that opens up two triple word score lanes, and yeah, it would be, I don't know, it's kind of a risk, right? A big risk when you do that. Your opponent might bingo back. Your opponent might play a very high scoring play beside uh, from the top triple word score down to the double letter score. But at the same time, Erickson has just played OXO. He might not have uh, that many high scoring tiles, so might be worth it. I personally I don't like this play of Uri that much because now there are plenty of options for Erickson to come back. Um, like he has, I mean, there's the front hook of quite a few front hooks of Uri available. Um, yeah, I think this is, and it scores a lot. Well, it scores like seven fewer points than Uri in the other position. So yeah, it's a little bit too open now for my liking. Yeah, but Erickson himself, not an easy rack, I think. What will you do in this position? I'm just going to throw it to you first.
This is a hard one, because as was mentioned in the chat already, it can certainly be very tilting. If you had the chance to play Docs versus this Oxo play, and then see that after Docs you have playable um, bingo options, and instead here there isn't. First here, I'd be like, what do I do? Just because the letters are so good, but nothing's here. I think if you're Erickson, as hard as it is, I don't think blowing up the rack is the right thing to do here. I do think you just have to accept that some kind of short play is what you do here. Uh, and I'm just looking for something that's worth it on the board that does scream the rack in a way. The pool is a little bit more balanced from Erickson's point of view as far as vowels and consonants. So I think maybe playing off uh, two tiles, so a consonant and a vowel, I think is reasonable here. The S, as long as you have one, you don't really have to hold on to a second one. Um, so I think S and some vowel somewhere to score. I think that's probably okay, but I don't know. What would you do?
Yeah, it's interesting because I think with a play like Uri, and well, Ericsson has like 3 minutes left, 3.5 minutes left. With a play like Uri that has, opened up such a high scoring spot there, you would be considering actually just playing off, getting a high scoring, making a high scoring play, right? And just playing off many tiles, in the hope of picking up the tiles that go there, right? So like a C, an L, a T, etc. And that's going to give you more score the next, like, more chances to catch up the next turn. So so something like, that has been suggested in chat, like raised or reset, actually not too bad because of that chance of drawing something. You're playing six tiles off and you're just gunning for something in the triple lane the next turn. So I think that makes some sense. But it's just making the whole situation a lot more volatile. And um, yeah, I mean, he chose to play irate. I think decent choice as well. Also achieves what he wanted to do, which is turnover tiles. And yeah, uh, decent choice from my point of view.
Meanwhile, for Jason, there isn't anything playable as a hook off of Uri that he's just played, which will probably surprise Erickson to not see it used on this turn in that fashion. Instead, Jason's struggling on the other end with more vowels than he would like, along with a couple of high counters. So he's looking here and thinking, well, what can I do to score and keep the gap as wide as possible in this situation? And I'm just
Yeah,
go ahead. Sorry, Weibin.
no, I would say in this case actually, it's quite. I mean, you don't feel that your lead is secure at all. Actually, I mean, I think you actually you should feel very worried if you were in Jason's shoes because my opponent has just played 5 tiles, and he's very. I mean, he's potentially having something that plays on in front of Auri. What am I gonna do? Like, I don't have anything that dumps a lot of tiles. I don't have anything that uh, hooks there, or even my blocks there are not gonna do that well. Um, I think he is gonna be quite worried. I mean, he's about 43 points ahead, but that's not a lot of points in this situation. And there's still a couple of bingo lines available, more than a couple of bingo lines available. So he's not feeling very secure. Um, there is a suggestion in the chat of hair riff, which kinds of even blows up the board even more. And it plays off. So it's through the R of Uri. Plays off 5 tiles. Might be what he needs in this situation, even though it only scores 16 points and opens up another triple lane. So just go crazy.
It does deal with the imbalance on his rack. It does put even more pressure on Erickson to figure out what to do, where he's already under time pressure considerably here. Uh, it it does make things very, very interesting. So I like that as a suggestion. It's certainly one of the ones that's considerable to me. Um, and yeah, it basically allows for well, any hooks to Uri aside. It does take out the sevens lane with the I and I raid that's just been created. You can play to the H and essentially kill the top quadrant on the, well, not the top quadrant, the top half more or less, minus any hooks to Uri. So it's a pretty decent play in that sense, where it just allows for exhaustion of the board, as was mentioned in the chat, a little bit quicker. EO is interesting here, I think, because of his concern with the hooks on Uri. That just minimizes the impact it has scoring wise. So you can certainly understand it, and it just somewhat balances the ratio on his rack for the next turn.
Yeah, I would say IO. I mean, I just added it to the list, but it is swimming pretty decently. Um, it just restricts that spot and keeps. I think it keeps the F and the H, which actually do fairly well. In top of the I rate area. So he did have something like FAH as well, but he doesn't need to play that this turn. So he's just doing something defensive. Uh, yeah, quite a good choice, and actually something that you know a lot of players will not think about, because most of the time you think of playing one of your the 4 point tiles, and just playing the two tiles like that. Quite an inspired option, I would say. And Erickson playing GUR, very clearly setting up the S and putting even more pressure on Jason to do something to block that line. So very strategic game we're seeing. Uh, yeah, I think GUR definitely, like, if you look at equity, or it's not going to be anywhere near the top, but very clear setup. And Jason kind of forced to address it in a way. Probably he's looking at playing HUE below, forming Guru, HUI, which keeps a slightly better leaf. So he's going to play Hui.
And that's quite sensible.
Yeah, but now you see Erickson has J, and he's going to play something like Jack, hooking the K onto I rate, quite possibly.
And shout out to Erickson, just addressing us lovingly as jackasses.
I actually did not see that. I just saw Jack.
I saw the taunt right away.
Well, yeah, you expected. I think you expected, yeah, from the player. You expected the word from the player, maybe. Yeah. So just to point out that he also had casks, CASKS, hooking onto Kuri that turn, which would have scored 53 points. Um, Jack is also quite a good choice, because it sets up his S's, that two S's that he's been holding. It's very clear to Jason now that Erickson has S's, and he's trying to make great use of them. Um, he has something like Tafia, I guess, and Turi, which will get rid of a lot of his tiles. And I think he needs something like that.
I think he's just got to play Tafia, as much as you're looking at the top. And actually,
Oh,
even, yeah, Tafia on top of Irate and Oxo works just fine as well.
yeah,
And not
that's pretty
Turi.
good. Yeah, yeah. Fate, the same idea, I think. Slightly more, yeah, because yeah, I think he can actually parallel on top, like something like FA something, or he has, yeah, Fado is good. Sado also good.
Yeah, I think he's actually making the right decision to hold back one more vowel here, just because from his point of view, the ratio in the pool is horrific as far as 6 vowels and 12 consonants, and he's inferring his opponent has S at minimum, if not blank, and just seeing lots of poor potential in terms of what could be on his rack in the future. So I think holding back 1 is good. He's actually pulled Saponine at the bottom on the next turn, and that seems very unlikely to be taken from him.
Hmm, not quite step 9. I think
Oh,
he has
R, I'm sorry. I was looking
yeah,
at the wrong thing here. There we go. It's loaded. I saw a P. Sorry. That
yeah,
that would have. There we go. Makes more sense. He has other non-playable things through the S instead, but we'll come back to that in a minute.
yeah. Erickson plays SIF, which again sets up his S, and wow, it's actually pretty, yeah, pretty hard to block, if you don't have the T, which somehow, even though there are 4 Ts unseen, Jason does not hold one. So what's he gonna be doing this turn? I think at this stage, do you think he should just give up on the block and just try to set up himself for another bingo? I mean, try to get another bingo himself.
I
He's pretty
think
close.
uh, I think he needs to consider that. Having said that, Sif has just the T hook. Erickson's S does not go under. Sif is an adjective.
Oh,
Uh,
oops.
so in this case, he's not assuming he has the perfect word knowledge here. He's not so concerned about that.
Right.
His main things to consider will be for Erickson in terms of bingos, playing down from the A, possibly, or using the RAS at the bottom. Any hooks to Uri, including that C, of course, and the chat's been mentioning high scoring plays for Erickson. Um, for Kuri the next turn. This gets challenging for Jason just because there's still no way to use anything to the left of Uri. There's not much of any scoring play that he has here, really. So it does lean towards some kind of fissure, I think. When you look at the pool, there's still lots left. Erickson has basically no time, 30 seconds, really. So Jason's going to realistically get at least 10 points in his favor, if not more. And I think that lends itself well to taking at least 1 turn to fish here and just induce errors from his opponent. So I'm not sure what fish I go for here, but I think in this particular situation, a machine's not going to capture the high probability that Erickson loses at least 10 points. So I'm leaning towards a fish, but what do you think?
Yeah. I think. I mean, I think he has to know that Ericsson has very good rack, and the question is if he decides to play off many tiles, like something like Aeonian. Um, I don't know. Like I think he's at the mercy of the bag. I'm not sure whether he wants to do that. Um, because he knows that still quite a lot of confidence in the bag. So I think a fish is well warranted. Not sure if I'll play the NI as he has done. I might play NO instead. But I think it's everything is not great for him.
Yeah, I think the O would have been my preference slightly here as well, but overall the right idea to fish certainly in his position. Uh, Over to Erickson. He has also gone for a fish with GI. So some rack grooming for both.
Yeah, so it's more more fishing that we're seeing. Um,
And
Jason, oh, Acridus, okay.
Acritus coming very quickly. Jason has fished, scoring reasonably well with Geo at an at, and let's just see what he pulls as Erickson pulls into the lead.
Hmm, Stone Raw, not quite fitting. So Acridus being played.
Unfortunately for Jason, it's one turn too late. He would have had Stone Raw off the S and Biddemers had it been one turn before. That's unfortunate. If he had played NO in some way instead of NIP, could have been a very different conversation. Just because stearine would have gone down instead on that S and Biddemers. There's a lot of what if here, but I think unfortunately just not quite for my preference the choice to make on that previous turn.
Yeah, it's still very winnable for
Yeah.
Jason. I think. I mean, he's 27 points behind, but Erickson has 2 seconds left. He has 6 tiles. He has an out at least, but that seems blockable. Uh, yeah, he has a couple of outs, in fact. I think so. Um, yeah, he might be able to pull this out, or do you think not? I mean, Ericsson has 2 seconds left. I think that's an important factor.
I'm just looking at Nout along the right side of Acridist and just trying to see options for Erickson. I haven't played out everything because I'm not looking at the machine, but Nout just kind of intuitively seems like something that's decent for Jason to play.
Yeah. So he has to block Gantlet as well as Elegant. Both of them go out for Ericsson, but that's pretty easily blocked. Yeah, but he has to decide and do it quickly and put time pressure on. Oh, he's thinking of Rawstone. Oh, that's
Oh,
well, he might take it back. Okay, he's gone for it,
oh.
and Ericsson is challenging. Yeah. Oh no.
How was while they're going for a walk? How was Nout doing? Because I think that did take care of both options, right? That you had mentioned.
Yes, yes. So now actually the best endgame does not win if Ericsson plays the best endgame in 0 second, in 1 second or 2 seconds, but um, I think could very well win if Ericsson had gone over.
And not played
Um,
optimally, but in this
yeah.
case,
So well, in fact, actually Ericsson could have gone over if he had found the right play as well, which is he has angle and he's seen it. Uh, I mean, if the correct response to rather the correct response to Naut, but I think if yeah if Jason plays Raw Stone, and it makes sense for Ericsson to go out instead. So Jason has one more attempt at the bingo if he wants to try. Go for the win, man. Yeah, but his plays are just things like worsen, water, worsen, reason. Yeah. So interesting. I mean, yeah, just to talk about the scores, if Jason had played Nout and Erickson had found angle but gone 1 minute overtime, um, Erickson would have won by 1 point. So that's how close it would have been. So not a winnable end game, I guess, for Jason that turn.
There we go. So he has found the play that would have, if he had played it before, as you mentioned, lose by 1 in a perfectly played endgame, which it looks like it would have been given we saw angle come down. Jason's made the good play here. So Erickson will go out, and once they have tallied up their final scores, we'll have our producer cut to the audio and get some insight from both of these players on what turned out to be quite the interesting swing.
And the final scores 3-4-8 to Jason Ubeika and
I messed it up
3-8-3.
quite badly. Well, that was I had to